JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Heart, Golden Ring, by Hirohiko Araki, Shotaro Miya, and Giichi Otsuka. Capitolo 5. The next day, Coniglio was discharged from the hospital. Her mom and the police detective that resembled Lieutenant Columbo came to pick her up. The young one, who was with him the day before, was not there. She was certain that probably, by seeing him a second time, she'd remember where she already met him. But on the other hand, there was no reason for his presence at the moment. Columbo only asked her the home's address, grumbled some worthless set phrases such as,
"You must have gotten very tired, miss,"
then bid a hasty farewell and vanished. Nothing was said about the hotel's incident and what happened after.
Speaking of tiredness, I must say that last night was worse,
thought Coniglio. But when gazing at her mom's face, who, without a word, continued to look at her, unable to stop the tears, suddenly everything lost relevance. While they were waiting for a taxi in front of the hospital's exit, she saw a group of people dressed in black. A youngster that gave the impression of being a good guy, a woman still in her prime that desperately cried, and, at her side, a man with a mustache with a robust build that supported her by the shoulders.
They're that little girl's relatives,
thought Coniglio.
That little girl that I didn't manage to save. I wonder if the woman is the mother. If that's the case, then that close to her is the father, or just another relative. The boy could be the elder brother. The mouth and hair curls are similar to those she had.
At those thoughts, she felt darkness cloud her eyes, and didn't even reply to the call of her mother, who was able to halt a taxi.
"There's no place like your own home,"
exclaimed the mother while entering, despite that not being quite her own home. Coniglio led her into the living room, and let herself drop on the sofa. She didn't have the will to do anything. She just wanted to be able to sleep. Yet, every single time she tried, yesterday's events spun in her head like a hurricane. Doubt and regret tormented her, making painful stabs at the core of her heart. After finishing sucking away the infection from the old man and the woman who accompanied him, Coniglio rushed with the cure in the opposite room. But unfortunately, the little girl's conditions were visibly deteriorating. The cure had entered first and she had followed it.
Her first!
According to the girl's indications, the snowy creature brought itself over the face of the little girl who slept in the bed near the corridor. While emanating white light, Coniglio got the impression that the cure was doing its best in sucking out the disease. Both of its huge ears aimed at the ceiling in a tense manner, and the light bluish stones that it had on the tips lit up and dulled to the pace of the little girl's feeble breath. Watching that scene out of the corner of her eye, Coniglio rushed to the bed of the little girl at the end of the room. The disease was already in a terminal stage. The white sheets were stained with red, blackish flesh, and the dark liquids that purged from every part of the body. The black hair was stuck to the forehead, and from her eyes a yellowish fluid relentlessly gushed out. Maybe for that reason, a cloudy veil had fallen upon her eyes. Despite that, she noticed Coniglio approaching.
"Señorita."
Everything will be okay. It's okay. You just need to wait a bit.
She had tried to reassure her, grasping the tiny hand the little kid extended in hers. But she knew that by now it was so delicate that the slightest pressure could have crushed it like it was thin terracotta, so she did not squeeze.
"I'm burning inside,"
gurgled the little girl, puking noisily a big clot of blood. Perhaps she was already starting to lose consciousness.
Hold on a bit more.
She thought she was repeating the same phrase like an idiot. She took a glance at the nearby bed. The cure had just finished its work and turned towards her.
Yes, she'll be saved.
But as soon as she had said that, though, she felt that strength was leaving the hand she was holding. She hastily turned towards the girl. She had her eyes wide open, and on her features you could read the pain. She could see the muscles on her face had begun to lose tension. The same happened to those of the hand that she was holding between hers, until she had heard the sharp noise of something that was breaking. She had hurriedly attempted to place the arm on the bed, but it had fallen on the chest, and that was not all. It had sunk deep, in the rib cage's center, and from the cavity that had formed, she saw the usual purple smoke rising. That smoke carried a scent of death. Coniglio, for the first time in her life, had understood what it meant seeing life's light disappearing from someone's eyes.
Shall I make you tea?
Her mother asked in an attentive way. Coniglio didn't answer. Her body didn't even have the strength to say, yes, thanks. She felt a bit guilty. Her mother had left everything to go and get her at the hospital, and now she was worrying over her. Yet, at the moment, she couldn't desire anything besides being alone. It was as if coming back to the days of middle school, when her brother had to leave her, and all of her friends had started avoiding her.
I thought I was accustomed to loneliness.
She pondered, while the steam that came out of the boiling teapot covered the window's glasses in a white patina.
Where is it that you keep the tea?
Absent-mindedly following with her eyes the figure of that mother who tried to be cheerful and positive at any cost, Coniglio immersed herself in yesterday's memories. She didn't want to remember, yet she continued to think about it.
What are you doing there?
Coniglio suddenly turned in the direction of that voice behind her back. It was a nurse that held a flashlight.
But aren't you... Yes, you're the patient that came yesterday,
she uttered as she turned on the room's neon lights. When she saw the little girl, a small yelp had escaped her lips.
What happened here?
Coniglio didn't have the willpower to answer. On the other hand, the nurse, without waiting for a reply, had already rushed in the corridor calling,
Doctor! Doctor!
The cry had echoed in the silent hospital.
It's all for nothing,
had thought Coniglio. Then she realized the coldness of such a thought and felt as if suffocating. She didn't remember well what happened after. The nurse returned and grabbed her arm to pull her away from the little girl. She had told her,
It's better to go back to your room,
or something like that. Otherwise, she would have probably stayed there until who knows when. She seemed to recall having watched the moon from the corridor's window, and that it had appeared bluish to her. Then a memory lapse, and she saw herself in her room's bed, desperately sobbing while grasping the sheets. It was rage, pure and simple rage. She had cursed her weakness. If only she had noticed sooner. If only she had better known the cure's powers. If only. But rage in the aftermath had never been useful to anyone. Coniglio didn't know it yet, but that neon light that the nurse had turned on had prevented the virus from spreading throughout the entire hospital. She could not know that Purple Haze's virus was terribly sensitive to light. She was unable to save the life of a little girl, but thanks to her, no other patient was harmed. At least from this point of view, she couldn't say that all of her efforts had been pointless. Plus, the cure's power didn't limit itself to neutralizing the virus. The doctor that had visited the critical patients hospitalized in that wing the next day found an unexpected situation. The conditions of those four, except the little girl that died during the night, had improved and made room for predictions about a quick recovery, something really astonishing. Even the old man, with a terminal stage cancer, who doctors said only had a few days left, was in nearly perfect health. They decided to wait for the results of further exams before making hypotheses, but that day, all critical care patients of that wing were unequivocally healed, and what's more, all at the same time. Some superstitious rumors even started among the people in the hospital, as often happens in these cases. That little girl died and brought back life to all the others, or she gave her life in exchange for the others. But even if Coniglio had known about this miracle, it probably wouldn't have consoled her. She had saved the other four, and not only them, she had actually saved all the patients in the hospital. But the fact that a little girl had died in front of her eyes was impossible to ignore. She saw life be extinguished that she perhaps could have saved. It had been a heavy blow to her. It had truly struck her down.
It's cruel. Too cruel.
It really was too cruel that something so horrible had happened exactly the day after her friend's death. It was more than enough to make her heart want to shut itself off once again.
What a good scent.
With the fresh scent of mint tickling her nose, Coniglio opened her eyes. Without noticing, she had ended up falling asleep. On the table there was the teapot with the herbal tea that her mother made. It was probably already cold, but the pleasant smell continued to impregnate the whole room.
What a waste.
Near the teapot was a tiny note her mother had left. "I'll let you sleep. I'm going to the hotel." The room was lit by the moonlight that had entered from the window. She massaged her shoulder, stiff because of having slept on the couch. The shoulder emitted a small crack.
While I'm at it,
She thought.
I might as well drink a nice cup of cold tea.
She took it to her lips, convinced it was mint tea. It was just plain black tea. Where did it come from then, that mint scent? It was then that she became aware that there was someone else in the room. Not any someone. That boy with blonde hair that brought disasters everywhere he showed up was there, in that room. Coniglio reflexively froze, gripping the pillow she had slept on.
Where are you hiding?
At that question, the boy came out of a curtained shadow. So it was true. It was really him. It was that boy that appeared always like a shadow. First at the hotel, then at the hospital.
Can I know who the hell are you? What are you?
She now gripped the pillow with both hands to try hiding the fact that she was trembling, but was unable to restrain herself and hurled it at him with all her might. He easily shoved it back with his hand. Then he moved one step in Coniglio's direction. Seen from up close, the boy's face was so beautiful as to be frightening. Lit by the moonlight, his smooth profile had an almost feminine delicateness. The blonde hair left to fall over his features without too much care. The mouth small but with well-defined lines. The strangely melancholic eyes that seemed to peer into her and create the desire to dive into them. He got closer by another step, then turned towards the window. When he was near it, he turned again, facing Coniglio.
Try to look outside.
The boy's voice felt very mature. It reminded her of that of an actor she saw in an old Western film. Clint Eastwood? Or was it Giuliano Gemma? It was a memory from long ago, when her brother had taken her to a little art house cinema in the outskirts of Roma. Or, at least so she remembered. With her mind distracted by those memories, Coniglio got up, letting herself be led by the words of that boy. What she saw outside the window went behind the bounds of her imagination. It was the dark. The city of Venezia had been completely engulfed in darkness. No light filtered from the intimacy of houses, nor that of urban lighting brightened the road to passers-by. Neither were visible the pleasure boats' navigation lights traveling the canals. It was pitch black everywhere, only the moonlight that kept shining allowed a rough notion of the city in the shadows. In the little square in front of Coniglio's home, there were people on the ground. A couple hugging, an old man that desperately tried getting up with the help of his cane, a young guy that tried to hold himself to the wall with both arms spread, as drunkards do. Between them, right in the center of the square, she saw that purple figure that continued to emit sinister vapors from its body. With a swift move, the purple figure got near one of the lampposts that lit the streets, and, with incredible speed, punched it with its fist. Coniglio saw the pole bend heavily and slowly fall down. She felt a faint sound of broken glass when the lamp touched the ground. A sound so small as to seem of no importance, like the ring of a tiny bell.
That is true, that it was you! You're the one who does this terrible thing!
Erupted Coniglio at the boy who was at her side. He didn't reply.
It was you who killed Winona and that little girl!
The girl's voice got loud enough to almost resemble a cry, but the boy seemed to not care in the slightest about such outburst.
You're cruel! Too cruel!
She had to resist the temptation to hit him. She clenched her fist with force. They trembled, but not because of fear. It was rage. A rage so strong that almost blinded her.
Why? Why did you do it?
I didn't want to meet like this with you.
Was what left the boy's mouth. Unforeseen words of which Coniglio didn't catch the meaning, and that also didn't give any answer to what she had asked him.
Down there, now, there are a lot of people suffering.
He resumed, looking right in her eyes.
And you have the power to save them.
He got closer to her with yet another step.
And now, what do you do?
What do I do?
Coniglio asked herself in reply, noticing to have gotten suddenly stiff.
What do I do? What else could I do? What do I want to do? What do you want me to do?
Save them.
The boy's words got to her like a blow on the head.
Save them? Yes, with the cure, I could save the people that are down here, but I can't save them all.
That's not true. You can do it.
I can't! I'm unable to!
She yelled, nearly crying. But the boy, ignoring those words, almost as a parent scolding their child when throwing a tantrum, only said,
You will do it.
And the moment after, he had already disappeared in the shadow. She looked around the room, but there really was no longer anyone there. Coniglio trotted down the stairs of the building she lived in. When she opened the main entrance, the scent of death came to her in a gust. It was the same scent that had risen, along with the violet vapor, from the chest of the little girl that had died in the hospital. The same that had filled the hotel's lobby, that sweetish stench that made your stomach turn. And now, it enveloped the whole city. In that street, normally crossed by tourists or people that came back home, often even late at night, a series of laments could now be heard. Obviously, there was not even a single light illuminating it. The moonlight, crossing the purplish smokescreen, shone in an almost surreal way. Checking right by the side of the building's entrance, she noticed that there was an old lady on the ground, with her hand extended, as if in an attempt to grab the door handle. She rushed towards her. On her head, there was a bluish swelling the size of an apple. The face was striped with bloodied scratches, from which exhaled a strong odor of rotting fruit.
The cure! Let's begin with her!
Reacting to the girl's voice, the little stand appeared behind her. It emitted a couple of tiny cries with his nose, and immediately put its snout close to the old lady's mouth. While the cure was busy with the woman, Coniglio rushed to investigate the vicinities. She pulled a flashlight out of her pocket and moved the light beam in front of the building.
1, 2.
Yes! Here, we could still make it in time!
In that moment, the cure finished sucking the illness out of the old lady and hastened towards the young guy leaning on the wall that had already started to vomit a huge amount of blood. The speed with which the creature sucked increased more and more. In some way, it was growing, and it seemed to be getting even stronger.
When you're done with that boy, the next one is beyond the bench!
Incited Coniglio. Along the narrow street that stretched from the square up to the canal, there were several people on the ground. That purple monster, from the looks of it, had headed towards the canal, spreading death and pain.
Just how far is that monster planning to go? Will I be able to catch up to it?
The victims, from the little square in front of her house, past the little street that led to the canal, appeared to amass further, closer to Venezia's heart. After being done with the people found in the square, Coniglio and the cure proceeded along the small road, stopping to check the condition of everyone they found on the ground. It was a disaster. Everywhere, one could see shadows of people in agony.
It's like the attic of Hotel Mondo Aria.
What Coniglio got reminded of as she was advancing towards the canal was the hotel's attic, where ended up all the objects left unused for years. Day after day, it had become a real warehouse, with the piano with the broken keyboard, the stringless harp, the small rusted-over birdcage, the chipped glasses and ceramics. It was packed with cobwebs, and in the corners accumulated big bundles of white dust, resembling those blowballs that form after dandelions bloom. Yes, the people on the street were like those balls of dust. Dust accumulated in the corners of an abandoned attic. For many of them, it was already over. For those that still seemed to feebly breathe, Coniglio placed the cure next to them, praying from her heart. But by then, almost everyone had died even before the white creature, drawing its muzzle near, had time to do its job. She inevitably stepped on the viscous puddles of blood, vomit, and various liquids that built up everywhere, slipped, and, while looking at the heaps of corpses which too were everywhere, like dust, got the impression of walking blindfolded beside the edge of a cliff. At first, she kept track of the number of people she had managed to save, but at some point she gave up. She found herself going in circles in the same spot. The scent of death ended up numbing her nerves.
I knew that it was impossible to save everyone. I knew it.
She suddenly felt a surge of hatred towards that blonde-haired boy, and, at the same time, She felt livid about having caved in so easily to those appealing but empty words. Thinking about it rationally, she couldn't have realized that by then the situation had deteriorated to a point where she couldn't have done anything more. Yet, it's difficult for those already involved in such events to realize this. The moment fate involves them, not only do they not have time to see the whole picture of the situation, but also dealing with what they have right in front of them usually takes up all of their energy. In that moment, Coniglio found herself in one such situation. She cursed the burst of rage she felt radiating from her. She cursed her perseverance in restraining it. She cursed her hope of being able to do something to help that situation. And, lastly, she cursed her ability which had given birth to that hope. Adrift in that storm of emotions, even while she continued to move forward like a somnambulist, she kept putting the cure close to try and help the people she found on the ground. The White Rabbit, on his part, hopped from corpse to corpse with great diligence, as if for him sucking out the harm was a source of pleasure. It wiggled its large ears like it was having fun, and moved the tiny mouth, sniffing around, as if it found the stench of death enjoyable. Like this, even if little by little, the cure's body could be seen growing. After wandering for a long time in that Venezia wrapped in darkness, Coniglio finally caught sight of a small light. It was beyond the Rialto Bridge, past the Canal Grande. Something was burning in the back of an alley that led to an old church. They were tall red flames that, at times, seemed to lap the darkness like snake tongues.
The cure!
She involuntarily called it out loud. Those flames did not bode any good. If she had the cool to think about it for a moment, it would have been impossible for her not to realize it. Yet in that moment, with the prospect of escaping the darkness, Coniglio felt happy to no end.
If there's a fire, it's possible for there to also be firefighters. Maybe I will find someone that's still alive.
She began running without even noticing. She just wanted to quickly exit that alley shrouded in a blackness rendered even deeper by contrast with the fire's brightness. What burned with such intensity at the end of that alley was the building that housed an old hotel. From the fury of the flames, it was evident the fire was already untamable at this point. Part of the walls and columns, blackened, had bent, succumbing to the violence of the fire, and a section of the roof had already collapsed. The scorching heat of the flames came brought by the wind. Paying attention, around the entry, one could see the corpses of those that didn't make it out in time, scattered and blackened by the blaze as mere pieces of coal.
It's too hot!
Thought Coniglio.
Too hot!
In spite of a fire of significant range like that, there was no one on the streets. No fireboat signaled its arrival with the sound of sirens. No photojournalist came running to further light the scene with his dazzling flashes. There weren't even the usual stupid onlookers that did nothing but take everything for a show and hinder the firemen's work. There really wasn't anybody. Only a house in flames. Too many dead. Too many dead that maybe she could have saved. Too many dead that she didn't arrive in time to save. She remained there, watching with an air of indifference the scorching dance with which that fire, almost sardonic, spread in front of her eyes. Between the flames, she saw a dark shadow move.
Maybe it's a mirage caused by the heat of the fire?
She thought, straining her eyes. That shadow danced the same heated dance as the fire. Maybe in a desperate attempt to extinguish the flames, it moved arms, legs, the whole body, clashing roughly against the walls. After a bit, the flames had completely enveloped the shadow, which vanished behind a pile of crumbled ruins.
What a shame. They must be dead.
And suddenly, she was aware that tears had continued to pour from her eyes without even knowing it. In that city of darkness, in which nobody could be seen around, echoed the toll of a church bell, as if announcing the departure for the last journey of all those who died. Or at least, so it seemed to Coniglio.